Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I've got a little surprise for you, something probably you guys are not expecting to see. You know, we've done the whole turbo build, the whole blown engine rebuild, and I'm on to the next biggest task of the car, and I'm just gonna show you guys what's going on right behind me. Alright, little backstory guys. About 15 years ago, I first lowered the car. I remember H&R Super Sports lowering springs. I just lowered it, had it for about 2 weeks, and something happened. I was dropping off my girlfriend at the time to her house after a nice long summer night at the beach, and I came across some road construction where the manhole covers were exposed. I tried to dodge some of them, and I dodged one and ran into something else. Long story short, I hit something under the car, and it was the loudest, most cringing noise I've ever heard. I pulled over, I looked at the car to see if the oil pan is correct, because that's the first thing we're gonna look at when you run over something, and to my surprise, everything was fine. But as soon as I got in the car, the steering wheel was off about 20-30 degrees. Certain turns the car would rub on the driver's side, and yeah, that brings us to frame damage. We had frame damage on the vehicle, and at that point I didn't know what to do. I blamed myself. So what we did, we bought a new subframe. So this subframe right over here is a brand new subframe we sourced from Honda, and these things were super expensive back in the day. I believe this one was like $800 for a new subframe. Luckily, we sold the old subframe for a few $100s. And the problem was, even though I put the new subframe back on and I thought the damage was just the subframe, it wasn't. When you align the subframe to the actual frame, right, one of those mounting bolts would be right here, and then the other mounting area would be right there. Well, the problem is this whole thing shifted back. Same thing with the back bolt, it shifted back, and I had a problem installing it. I was able to install it, but again, this new subframe also was pushed back for it to mount properly. I took it to some frame shop for them to take a look at it and do their magic, and I remember paying about $1,000 for the frame shop. They gave it back to me, and again, I was a young guy back then, probably in my early 20s at most. They gave it back to me. They just said everything looks good, you just need to get an alignment and it should be good to go. Well, long story short, again, it never was the same. This wheel right over here, this wheel has always been pushed back more towards the fender. Whenever I install my suspension and drop the car, it always rubs more on this side because, again, they did not align this properly. You see some kinks right over here. There's a kink here. I don't think this would be considered frame damage since the damage is here, but you guys let me know. You guys are the pros. Anyway, I've been trying to hammer this in and out. I'm trying to do this again. I just dropped the whole subframe. Took me about 2 hours to drop. The power steering bolts here were kind of the biggest pain in the butt, as you can see. And we're gonna try to maneuver things here so we can push. Again, we're doing this at home with what we got, but we're gonna try to push this pillar forward about, I don't know, 3/16 of an inch or like 3 millimeters forward. And the same thing with the back bolt. I'm gonna be experimenting what are the best ways to do it. I have a few things in mind, but again, however we do it has to be done with tools that we got around the house. This is not going to no shop because, again, I don't trust any goddamn shops, clearly based on how they did this repair. I'm gonna look for my paperwork from them to see exactly what they did, but I remember one thing though. Whatever they did, it helped with the radiator support. Like, they aligned it properly, you know, but the actual frame was always shifted, so it wasn't a perfect square. It was always shifted a little bit this way, causing the driver tire to be more more towards the back of the car, which again throws off the whole alignment. So yeah, the engine's been running great after the rebuild, but we're on to the next project here. Cars are super expensive these days, and I just want to make this thing run better. And you know, me being an automotive hobbyist, this is my next job that I'm trying to tackle. Hopefully we can do this. Again, I've been using it as a daily driver. Tomorrow is Monday. I probably have to catch a ride to work, but I want to do this while we can in the next couple of days, so hopefully I can put it back together and it'll run in one piece. So I'll get back to you guys with progress or some other videos, but yeah, let's pull the subframe out right now. And there it goes. That's the chassis of that's the subframe of the car, the 8th gen Civic. The easiest way was to remove the bolts on the lower ball joint. I did not even attempt to take off the control arm. And then again, you had a couple bolts here for the power steering that were pretty rusted, but I'm glad I got them all out. And let's take a look under the car without anything here. This is hanging. That's my only concern, but we should be good. As you can see from the rebuild, there's really no leaks, so that is well. And yeah, let me get some light for you guys, and I'm gonna show you what's up. So right over here on the driver's side, I'm gonna install that bolt, and I'm gonna try to push this towards the front of the car here. Hopefully we get this warmed up and are able to maneuver it. And again, this one here, we got a lot of space here to either try hammering it up or figure something out to push it forward. All right, so let me fill you in on what we have done so far. We actually enlarged the holes right over here, so there's no more lip overlaying the top portion compared to the inner segment. And we also, on the bottom, we made some more room here. We shifted that forward a little bit as well, that point. And we did the same thing in the back here. I'm hoping that buys us a little bit more space. Today I'm going to try to reinstall it and just check the clearances again. I think our biggest problem is going to be this portion of the frame, pulling it forward. But I just want to mount it and get a general idea of how much space we need to pull. Well guys, I've tried so many things. My arm absolutely is killing me. With the back bolt in place properly, the front has a lot more to go to get aligned properly, and I just can't pull the living hell out of this frame with anything I have. I've tried a few things. I even was trying to, I have some locks on the concrete back there, but it's just, you know what, I concluded I'm just gonna leave it. It's still gonna be much better than it was before because I managed to move the frame a little bit more. I have a little bit more wiggle room. It's not to OEM spec as I intended it's not gonna be, but I just don't have the tools, the resources, the knowledge to do anything proper with frame pulling, frame work. So yeah man, bottomed out back in the day, somewhere right over here. Everything got pushed back, and that's the story of this R18, man. This R18 has seen so much with me here. Blown motors, bent frames, years of abuse. It's been doing great though. We still got it going. I don't know guys, lately I've been contemplating getting rid of this thing and starting fresh with a new, more capable platform. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How do you handle your subframe damage if you've had them? Obviously we could take it to a body shop and they can put it on a frame machine, but it's gonna be probably another $800, if not more, because of the labor charges, and it's just not worth it. It is not worth it for me. Well, on that note, I think that's gonna be a wrap. I'm gonna try to wrap this up today, but comment, subscribe, and catch you on the next video. Alright guys, I was on the struggle bus last night and I got the subframe installed and the car's back and driving. It does feel a little bit different, and I was able to shift the actual subframe a little bit forward, so it is better than before. Not still ideal, not perfect, but it is better. And now I'm doing a do-it-yourself alignment here on the vehicle, and I'm going to show you what I came up with, because the vehicle does still pull to the right quite a bit. So all you have to do is run a wire or some kind of string from the front end of the car to the back end, and you're going to measure the same distance from the center of the wheel. And then to compare the toe for the front, you're just going to measure the back of the wheel right here, which is almost 2 inches, compared to the front of the wheel, which you can see is about 1.5 inches. So we definitely need more toe in from the driver's side here, and that's going to be the first step we're going to do to try to correct the pulling issue. We're putting the vehicle back together here, all assembled, bolts up perfectly to OEM spec. The only thing that's different on this side is I really need to put a spacer right between that subframe and that chassis, something like 2 mils, just because it's still, because of those kinks, it's not properly aligned. But the back end holes, I'll show you guys. The back end holes, look at that, perfect spacing right there, perfect spacing on the passenger or driver's side. This is the passenger side, same thing, OEM spec, as best OEM spec as I can get it. Passenger side, driver's side, all right. I know this video has been ongoing, and I've been doing quite a bit of work on the car and the subframe all together. I've had this thing on with these jacks with the bumper off multiple times, and we've been coming down towards the grand finale here, trying to do the best we can, trying to straighten this frame out. So we obviously pulled it already, you guys probably seen that, and the next step here was to insert a spacer. So I got 2 plates right here with a hole in the middle of them, and that's just gonna space out the frame that's sitting on the subframe. There's obviously kinks there in the frame to offset the height. Since this whole thing shrank a little bit, we're giving it a little bit bump right here on the bottom so this car sits properly. Currently on stock suspension, The driver's side sits about half an inch lower than the passenger side, and that is due to this bent frame rail here, and we're trying to put that spacer on here. So for the most part, it's not that much of a big difference here sitting down. I'm hoping that this works well and doesn't make any noise or clunks or anything once it's tightened down. And if it happens to be that we need one more spacer here, I could definitely reinstall a third spacer. I'm going to start off with 2 and see how it balances out the right height of the car and how the car likes and how the car drives and behaves with that spacer. All right, got everything tightened down. It's all nice and tight. That's how it looks like here. So far, seems promising. I'm gonna reinstall everything, set the car down, take it for a spin tomorrow at work. I'm gonna do the measurements and we'll get back to you. All right, guys, so I'm gonna catch you guys up on what's going on. So we already got the frame pulled right now, and we got the OEM stock suspension, as you can see by the wheel gap. I laid out this wire right over here, and we're gonna just check the toe on the front driver's side. Since we changed the subframe location, everything is different on the alignment. Right over here we got about, I don't know, almost 2.5, 2 inches and 7/16. And right over here in front we have, okay, not too bad, 8/16. So it's towed out just a little bit on the driver's side front. So I got to tow it in just a little bit actually. And let's check the rear just for comparison. That one is 7/16 and 7/16 also. So the rear is 7/16, and again the front is towed out just a bit. Yeah, 1 millimeter towed out from neutral. So we're gonna turn that tie rod in a little bit. So we gotta tow this tire in, the front of it in. So we actually gotta push this one out a little bit. We gotta unscrew it. Alright, it's been a couple weeks off and on, and I don't even know at what point I left off in the last video, but we're still messing around with this subframe, and it has been nothing but daily headaches going under the car, taking everything apart. Long story short, I dialed in the undercarriage and the subframe. We ended up using 1 spacer on the driver's side front subframe and like half a spacer on the back to even it out. As you guys can see, I'm missing a center cap. The reason is because we ended up even going to the extent of replacing a whole knuckle assembly, because we thought maybe the knuckle is bent over here and maybe that was causing the short structure and the car sitting lower on the driver's side. However, even with the replaced knuckle, it's still sitting half an inch lower, which only led me to believe something is wrong with the shock towers, and that's why we took the cowl off. And as you guys can see, let me show you, we have the passenger side shock right over here, and as you can see right now how it's sticking out. This is mounted normally, and on my passenger side, as you can see, it is sunken in, and that is because we put about 1/2 inch of spacer crush washers on each stud, and actually putting in 1/2 inch of spacers between the shock tower and the shock actually increased the ride height by about that 1/2 inch. So right now the car is uniform from the driver's side to the passenger side. So whatever our problem was essentially bent our chassis up, and something here in this whole shock tower assembly, whether it was from here or somewhere lower with the weld points, it had to stretch upwards, and there's more play between the shock and the tower on the driver's side because of that impact that happened right over here. And at this point, the best solution here is to get a spacer in between the strut tower and the shock top hat. I think that's gonna be the best solution. And yeah, man, countless hours just working on this and messing with it, and that hub knuckle assembly was a pain in the ass to do. I've replaced every accessory, right? The subframe is new, the lower control arm, the ball joints, the inner outer tie rods, and I think we finally came down to the conclusion something is uneven on this side of the car, but we're gonna solve it. We're talking with my friend that does some CNC work. Maybe he can cut us out a spacer which will mimic a top hat here, and then after that, once that's dialed in, I can finally get an alignment and it should be good to go. Long journey, a lot of failures, but the only way I got dialed in and got where I am is because I didn't give up after all the frustration. So if you're dealing with anything in your life where you're frustrated, you think you don't see the end of the tunnel, you don't think you're gonna succeed, just keep going at it. Day by day, something will populate in your head. You will learn something, you'll get another idea, you'll think of another way to solve that problem, and eventually you'll get a lot closer, and hopefully you solve that issue. But I appreciate you guys watching. Always a long video probably, but that's the update. I just wanted to throw in this clip just so you guys know we are dialing it in, and we have determined pretty much what's wrong with the car there. So peace.